It's the sound that fans of 80s rally cars love and reminds many of a very special car, the Audi Quattro S1. Now Audi is resurrecting the legendary S1 as the new top city model of the Audi A1. The two cars may be different, but the similarities are clear. Both are powered by the Quattro all-wheel drive. Our car tester Klaus Nietzsche says the name S1 stems from a sporty car that featured in world rallies in the 1980s, driven by famously fast drivers like Walter Röhrl and Stig Blomqvist. Unlike the original, the new S1 can be bought by anyone. And it boasts quite a few sporty features. Huge brakes, a Quattro logo, rear spoiler, and 4 exhaust pipes. And the S1 proves its skills on the road. Powerful braking, sharp steering, and the wheels have a phenomenal grip on the asphalt, thanks to all-wheel technology. And the 2-liter turbocharged engine is impressive when accelerating out of curves. No other car in the segment packs such a sporty punch. Klaus says the new Audi S1 shows its real strengths on the test track. It's got a great electromechanical power steering system, and the all-wheel drive means you can really step on the gas exiting a bend. So, in short, Klaus says the new S1 is a great sportsman. And great sportsmen need big hearts. A 2-liter engine shoots this little machine forward in no time, but it takes more than pure power not to fly off the track in snow and ice. Driving in icy conditions can be tricky, but seasoned drivers can work the S1 easily and literally make it dance around on the snow. The S1 is perfect because much of its weight, 60%, is concentrated in the front. You almost feel like Quattro Maestro Stig Blomqvist. What does the famous driver make of the new S1 compared with its predecessor?
Okay, the new one is really nice, and okay, it's 30 years between them, so it's not really something you can compare.
And the same goes for the sleek interior. High-quality materials and an eye for detail underscore the car's sporty elegance. A gearshift knob in aluminum. Sports steering. And bucket seats. The new S1 accelerates in just under 6 seconds to 100 kilometers and rocks on to a top speed of 250. Its 170 kilowatt engine has a fuel consumption of 7.1 liters. In Germany, car lovers will need to shell out over 30,000 euros for the new 5-door S1 Sportsback. So what's the verdict of our car tester? Klaus says he's surprised. The car looks good, is great to handle, is sturdy, and crazily fast. So it has everything you'd expect from a small sportsback, he says. Today, our car tester Sascha Knapp will examine the new Honda Civic with a 1.6-liter diesel engine. Up till now, Honda hasn't played much of a role in Germany. In 2013, it sold less than 23,000 vehicles. Figures for Europe as a whole look a little better, almost 150,000 cars sold. But globally, Honda is a major player, selling 4.3 million autos a year. Now, Honda is presenting the Civic Tourer tailored to the German market in a bid to boost sales here, but can it compete with a VW Golf variant?
Eine Chance gegen beispielsweise den VW Golf Variant hat, das wollen wir uns heute anschauen.
The Civic Tourer's design is much more dynamic than most hatchbacks. Nothing stolid or square here. The Tourer distinguishes itself well from the crowd, both in front and in the rear. We especially like the broad wheel wells, but the Tourer's design reduces the driver's ability to see all around. Sascha says Honda's serious interest in the German market is shown by the trunk, one of the largest in this class. It holds 624 liters. And when you put the seat down, 1,668 liters. It has an additional compartment under a hatch on the trunk floor. Sascha also likes the low trunk sill, just 55 centimeters, which makes it easier to load. On the road, the Tourer's dynamic appearance is matched by its dynamic handling. The steering is precise and the engine is spirited. That's partly due to its 300 Newton meters of torque, but also to its light weight. The 1.6-liter diesel engine weighs 50 kilograms less than the 2-liter engine it replaces. Sascha likes the crisp, precise transmission. He says what's special about the Honda Civic Tourer is its adaptive undercarriage. Most adaptive axle systems involve all the wheels. The Civic Tourer regulates only the rear axle because Honda assumes that the weight on the front axle will remain the same. But since up to 500 kilograms can be loaded at the rear, its burden here can vary widely, so the Tourer's axles can be adjusted between 3 settings: normal, dynamic, or comfort, as required. The Civic Tourer's interior has a sporty, modern feel. The overall appearance is convincing. But the large number of buttons on the center console is a bit confusing. Sascha points out a rare feature. Have you ever tried to transport a bicycle in your car? In the Honda Civic Tourer, you don't have to rearrange the trunk. You just hold the back seat upward and there's room for a bicycle. The Civic Tourer has many details that German customers will like. No wonder, it was developed for the European market. And this Japanese car is actually British. It rolls off the assembly line in Swindon, in southwestern England. Sascha isn't happy that the engine can be heard during the entire drive, but it's not so loud that it's really bothersome. An eco button on the dashboard lets you see how ecologically you're driving according to the position of the gas pedal, and allows you to regulate it accordingly. Being green is the declared goal of the 1.6-liter diesel engine in the Earth Dreams technology series. Honda says the Civic Tourer's normal diesel consumption is 3.8 liters per 100 kilometers. Only 99 grams of CO2 emissions per 100 kilometers is pretty good too. The diesel hatchback costs 21,550 euros. Invest a little more and Honda throws in a few assistance systems, including automatic distance control and an emergency brake assist. Sasha sums up. The Honda Civic Tourer clearly demonstrates that it's a viable alternative to the VW Golf. It has more storage space than any other vehicle in this segment. Its price is comparable to that of the Golf, so you have to be prepared to spend quite a bit. But you do get value for your money. Our car tester Matis Kurat points out that just as there are small compact cars for the city and big ones for long-distance travel, trucks have different models too. So what are they exactly? That's a question for Silke Vollmann-Logan of Mercedes-Benz. She says that depends on the kind of trip. Drivers who do long haul are usually on the road for several days, so they need a comfortable sleeper cab in the truck with a bed and enough room where they can stay the night. While city trips, on the other hand, involves drivers starting in the morning, distributing their goods, and going home at night. So those drivers don't need all those facilities. And that means trucks plying in the city have smaller, more compact driver cabins, which is better since they often have to maneuver in smaller spaces.
Verteilerverkehr etwas übersichtlichere Fahrerhäuser zu haben, weil es doch auch mal eng zugehen kann zum Rangieren.
So Matis is now going to test this Mercedes Atigo to see how it performs. So we head out onto a country road. At a height of around 2 meters above ground, Matis can now try out this big machine. And it's not just his high vantage point that allows him to get a good overview. Matis says despite its huge size compared to a car, it isn't really difficult to get a grip on the Atigo thanks to the 6 mirrors mounted around the driver's cabin. But what he'd really like is a camera so that he can see what's exactly happening behind the vehicle. But during the trip, there's mostly just a line of cars to be seen. In Germany, most trucks are limited to 80 kilometers per hour. While driving the Atigo with a permissible total weight of 7.5 tons, it's a weight category popular around the world and not just with haulage firms. Matis says that people who got their car driver's license in Germany before 1998 are also allowed to drive 7.5-ton trucks, like the Atigo here. That means many people who usually don't drive a truck can also use this vehicle, for instance, when they're moving. He says the automatic gearbox makes it easier to get used to the truck because all you have to do is keep your eyes on the road, steer, brake, and accelerate. But you have to be careful with side winds because of the large truck. As long as you don't load the truck to its full capacity, you don't have to worry about stability because the main weight of a truck is centered around its axles. Matis says in addition to the Atigo, there are heavier truck models that can have a total weight of up to 40 tons. But here too there are special vehicles for long-haul and short-haul trips. Silke Vollmann-Logan says the Mercedes Actros model has sleeper cabs for long-haul trips that are 2 meters 40 wide and have a uniform floor. But that's not needed for the city. When a driver is on the road for several days, he needs to have a feel of a home. For day trips, a driver does not need a sleeper cab with big dimensions and lots of comfort. And this is where you have tailor-made options, she says.
Wo mir auch nicht so viel Komfort bietet. Und hier ist eben das Angebot speziell auf den Einsatzzweck schwerer Verteilerverkehr zugeschnitten.
And there are other requirements for garbage trucks. Here, getting in and out of the vehicle has to be made easy, as well as turning into narrow streets. This Mitsubishi Fuso Canter shows that trucks don't have to always be big to transport a lot. Its compact structure allows it to carry the biggest load in its segment, and there's also a diesel hybrid version. Mata says the Fuso Canter isn't just unbelievably flexible. Its hybrid engine is great because you can save around 4 liters of diesel on 100 kilometers. So after 4 years, you've got back the additional 8,000 euros you paid on the price. You always have a 10-year guarantee on hybrid parts. It's not a bad deal. But Mata says it remains to be seen if the hybrid engine can compete with the conventional diesel version.
Das wird sich erst noch zeigen.
The Ford A Speedster was one of the earliest models in automobile racing. In the 1920s, daredevil men would race around dusty tracks in vehicles like this one. This 1929 model boasts 40 horsepower and can reach speeds of up to 100 kilometers an hour. At a time when most people were still traveling by horse and carriage, it was revolutionary. But for Klaus Müller, speed is not the primary interest. It's the whole driving experience. He's been a lifelong vintage car enthusiast and has a particular passion for Ford cars from before the Second World War. I spent a long time, he says, trying to trace the old racing cars that were based on the Ford A model, but not produced in Ford factories. I discovered a factory in South America that specialized in these cars, so I went over there and saw that their cars were good and authentic, and the decision was made. Klaus Müller ordered a Speedster body from Argentina. His goal was to build an authentic Ford A Speedster. Parts like the dashboard instruments and steering wheel he was able to buy at vintage car markets. It took hundreds of hours of work, but eventually he was able to fulfill his dream. Everything has been put together by hand, he says. The bodywork was made without any modern equipment. It was all shaped by hand. And if you look closely, you can see lots of irregularities. Everything has been done as it would have been done back then. It's been riveted rather than screwed together, but there are no hollow rivets. The engine came from an old Ford A from 1929. Klaus Müller gave it a complete overhaul before fitting it into his car. Finding spare parts is no problem, he says. You can basically get everything. There are a few parts that are no longer produced, but you don't need them anyway. All the parts that wear out, you can buy. And if everything's adjusted correctly, you can do the maintenance yourself. Change the oil, check the spark plugs, minor things like that. Klaus doesn't believe in just admiring his cars in the garage. He drives his Speedster frequently. The Speedster is surprisingly normal to drive. It's not so different from modern cars. The clutch is the same. There's a 3-speed transmission. The main difference is that you're exposed to the elements, and because of the noise, it's not so easy to chat with your passenger. The Ford A Speedster, a pre-war classic with the feel of a racing car. And as they're easy to build and maintain, there are still quite a number of Model A's around today.